Now go.
Called to order the PZC Regulatory Review Committee of September 18th at 5:02 p.m. Member President Aho, Corsi, Ron, and Nick Bernor. And we have an honorary hearing of the public soon-to-be member, Vera Ward Stearns. So we have minutes from August 21st.
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
By Corsi.
Second.
Second by Bernard. Everybody's in favor. Okay, that passed. We have one thing to discuss today, and that is these agricultural uses. And a lot of this came from the Ag Committee, right? These are recommendations that we've adopted from there.
So back in April, there was a public hearing on this has been going on for a couple of years. Now we've been talking about roosters, and I believe there's been, just to bring the public up to date, because I know the public may be watching, the Planning and Zoning Commission has been, and specifically the Regulatory Review Committee, has been studying the issue of roosters for probably before Michael began, and Michael's been here for 2.5 years.
The first time that this became an issue I can find in the
2007,
update records was 2007, where we argued about it for a while, couldn't get a reg passed, tried again in 2011, argued about it for a while, and now we're here and it's 2025, and we've been arguing about it for a while.
Only 18 years.
Yeah.
No,
So,
it's going up to college.
and in our plan of conservation development, which we're about to get a new one, it says that we need to really look at our agriculture regulations so that we become more farm friendly. And I think it's hard, right? Because the zoning is folks that deal with complaints from the public. You know, our office wants to make everyone happy in town. And obviously we serve 26,000 people and we are unable to make everyone happy. But so I think these regulations really, Michael did a great job working with the Agriculture Committee, who met how many times?
Since February, monthly, sometimes twice a month. So it's been a big process.
And they brought in experts from
Yukon, Ag Extension, State, DOAG. We got a lot of different agricultural experts from different agencies to weigh in on how things are done, what's feasible to ask residential property owners to do versus what is something that, you know, seems like a good idea, but there's no good standards to require someone to do without outputting huge amounts of money. What really should be the focus for public health, safety, and welfare, ostensibly the purpose of zoning. And this led to some big changes. You know, ultimately, we eliminated entirely the animal density table, which was the primary mechanism for controlling livestock up to this point. We did away with, after reports from pretty much every agricultural expert we talked to said, yeah, this isn't actually how we recommend you think about animals at all. Instead, burden shifted a lot more onto standards for things like management of manure, management of animal welfare. Some of those exist within things we can regulate for zoning. And one of the reasons we're back here talking about this today is that we spoke with our policy consultants, Tyche Consulting, who happen to serve as the zoning enforcement officers in a lot of rural communities like Ashford and Durham. And they made some recommendations saying you might be actually a little too generous on what you're letting people do with your manure here. Ashford had some further setbacks for manure from side and rear yards and said, you know, from a public health standpoint, it's good to have these be greater. So one of the changes from the previous version to the current version you have in your hand is just we increase those side yard setbacks based on feedback from Ashford.
What was it before?
Well, we didn't have one. Okay. We were talking about them and said, I don't know, maybe 10 feet, right? So we tossed out a number and they said, that's nowhere near enough. You need decent side yard separations. We're proposing 75 feet here, which is consistent with Ashford. But we've also noted that if you can't meet setbacks for management of manure, you are keeping, goats on your property or a bunch of chickens, and your property isn't wide enough because it's residential property, you can't meet those setbacks. Your manure has to be kept either in an inside structure or in covered bins such that it is managed if you can't otherwise get your setbacks. Trying to kind of accommodate that for all sides of the properties, but make sure you're not being a nuisance.
I was curious in the 3B, it says manure may be kept indoors or in covered storage bins,
I
which
think it was supposed to be.
should it be may or should it be must?
Will be.
Or shall or something?
We're letting it.
Yeah.
Can you?
Property cannot meet the above manure setbacks. Manure may be kept indoors or in covered.
Yeah,
bins.
may
It
is
shall be.
Yeah.
Two-week word, yeah,
3B,
shall,
last sentence shall.
good catch.
Well, we don't mind.
Other than that, this version, it's everything you reviewed in the last version. We just tried to make it shorter, move it around, make it a bit more concise. As we all know, people's eyes kind of gloss over by the time you get to the 4th page of a regulation. So in the interest of getting information to folks as easily as possible, we tried to just get it a little bit quicker.
And I think
eliminate
it's
redundant
good that
language.
we start off by saying it should follow the generally accepted practices, Commission of Agriculture, and those can change over time, and so that helps keep it up to date.
Yep.
And Connecticut General Statute 1980-341, which I believe is the right to farm ordinance, says that it's the Commissioner of Agriculture that is the one that determines what a generally accepted agricultural practice is. So we are saying, it may be times when we have to call the Commissioner of Agriculture, but that's kind of how our state wants it, so.
That's kind of how the Ag Committee prefers it, talk to the agricultural experts as opposed to asking. I like to think Jolene and I are pretty capable as field agents, but we're not necessarily experts on husbandry of animals. So.
And you no longer have to count animals.
There will be no animal enforcement by the zoning enforcement officer going forward.
Good.
Nor the animal control agent.
Animal control, agricultural animal control is a division of the state. And so if there's questions of that, those will be kicked up to the state level. Our animal control officer has noted that it's not within their purview.
Now, it's interesting that guinea fowl,
Yeah.
were-
Are
That-
they on here?
The guinea fowl carve out is something that the agriculture committee, upon consulting with people, everyone agreed, okay. Every guinea fowl was noisy all the time.
okay,
Just don't allow them on these lots. And also they're much less popular than chickens. And people are, on average, you will upset fewer people and it is a more reasonable restriction. Because every guinea fowl is loud like a rooster, but you can't, so you can't have them without having any sort of noise.
I had guinea fowl as a kid in Mansfield.
And were they loud?
They annoyed the neighbors, yeah.
Yeah. That's why.
Okay,
That's really it. These,
Question.
yeah.
Our last meeting, there was discussion about primary and secondary use. What
We-
happened with that?
We did clear that up. There's not well, it became a couple different things. The biggest thing is that we didn't want to kind of create a situation where somebody was, not able to put up a small structure because they didn't have a principal structure on the property, because a principal structure sometimes requires you to have a use already. One of the consequences of this ordinance as written, it pertains to the use of an approved subdivision lot as agriculture, right? So you could have a 2-acre subdivision lot. Somebody could use that for farming. If that's their primary use, somebody could put up a barn, have a bunch of goats, they could grow a bunch of crops. Hypothetically, they could do that in an approved residential subdivision. There's nothing in this that really guards against that if we think it's an issue. there are, in many cases, leftover lots from approved subdivisions. Jillian and I are getting a bunch of applications in now of people trying to build out the final lots in old subdivisions for housing. But some of these could become, particularly in places I'm thinking, kind of grassier areas like Jonathan Lane, where you have a large developed grass area. Some of those could be used for agriculture. Jillian, you had more thoughts on this.
Thought we dealt with that with commercial versus non-commercial.
We did deal with that. We did eliminate the commercial versus accessory distinction. So it's not, we're not creating a distinction here between, well, this is a commercial farming operation versus this is a non-commercial farming operation, because all farming has a potential to be to engage in commerce, right? But people sell the excess eggs of their chickens out by the road. That's commerce. How are you possibly going to regulate a economic breakpoint on that? There's not a correlation of size.
Too hard to do.
So one thing that we did keep in though is noting item 6 is that any agricultural use that's not specifically authorized herein, it would require a special use permit. Now, this generally refers to big compound agricultural operations, large greenhouses that may be doing production and packaging. If there were to, in some hypothetical future, be another operation like Mountain Dairy that was going to require a large amount of land, open it up, engage in a multi-process. We're putting up a whole bunch of barns, doing a bunch of agriculture. We're going to be packaging our stuff on site. Those kinds of things are allowable in RAR 90. It's kind of purpose of RAR 90, but we want a special use permit for it, as opposed to it just being, this is all agriculture, right? At a certain point, it reaches, this kind of needs approval from the town.
So this is where we're landing now. The next steps are for you to go and adopt it. You will receive a public hearing draft. The full commission would have to receive this as a text amendment application initiated by the commission, and then there would be a full-on public hearing. And then we would move to adoption like we do with all of our other regulations.
Okay. Is there anything we need to do today to move this
I
along?
think it was just really
Just to show us that.
the folks and also members of the public understood, the direction we were taking.
People are very interested in this. We want to be exceedingly transparent, show everyone every step along the way. Make sure that every draft is documented and explain how they've changed. From the last time we had this meeting, this draft doesn't look very much the same because we reorganized a lot, cut and pasted sections and moved it around to make it easier to read. But we just want to be exceedingly transparent in the interest of good government.
I think it's really well written now.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we were thinking, weren't we?
That's something different. The draft.
Sorry, I did not understand that reference.
No, we, Jennifer and I spent a lot of time going back and forth on what's the best way to phrase each of these sub clauses. So we like to have fun here.
All right. Is there anything else we need to do today?
In terms of our schedule as a group, where would this fit in? Is this something we're looking at to do in October?
I think most likely we are going to be doing this when the commission is going to be looking at all of our use tables, and we want to make sure that the use tables reflect the zones where you can do agriculture.
Okay.
So I think that it makes sense for us to have agriculture and the use tables, and then there will be also some updated definitions you'll see at the back of the document. The last part of the document will be added to additions to definitions. We've added caterpillar tunnel, we've defined farm stand, farm store, greenhouse, high tunnel, and we use the state statutory definitions for livestock and poultry. We refer to the state definition of agriculture at 1-1Q. I think farm, winery, brewery, distillery were already in the regs.
So we gotta make sure that you can do farming everywhere. We want you to do farming now that we've spent all this time figuring out what farming is. So,
Now, after,
November.
Yeah, well, TBD,
Yeah,
now, after the POCD is done, which presumably it'll be done sometime this year, later
Yeah.
this year.
Later this year, early 26, yep.
And then this committee can move on to some things that need to be done after
Yes.
the POCD.
That is
done.
correct. Yep,
Looking forward to that.
yep.
Us too.
Anything else we need to do today?
That was true.
We are adjourned at 5:17.